Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Horizon and watched the stars through the large window. His ship was moving slowly through space near the Kepler belt, far from Earth. Jake had been exploring unknown parts of space for 10 years, but today felt different. Something was wrong. "Captain, we're getting strange readings from the Kepler 442 system," said Lieutenant Mary Johnson from her station. She was the ship's science officer and very good at her job. "There are lots of big ships there, but they don't look like ours." Jake walked over to look at her screen. The display showed dozens of massive ships around the human mining colony on Kepler 442b. Each ship was 3 times bigger than the Horizon. They were dark gray and had sharp edges that looked dangerous. "Are they human ships?" Jake asked, but he already knew the answer. No human had ever built ships that looked like these. "No, sir," Mary said quietly. "They're something else. Something we've never seen before." Jake felt cold fear in his stomach. The mining colony had 50,000 people living there. They were simple miners and their families, not soldiers. If these strange ships were hostile, the colonists would have no way to fight back. "Open a channel to the colony," Jake ordered. The main screen showed Commander Lisa Barnes, the colony's military officer. She looked worried and tired. Behind her, Jake could see people running around in panic. "Jake, thank God you're here," Lisa said. "These alien ships showed up 3 hours ago. They haven't attacked yet, but they're not answering our calls either." "Have you tried to communicate with them?" Jake asked. "Yes, on every frequency we know. Nothing. They're just sitting there, watching us." Jake looked at the alien ships on his screen. They were arranged in a perfect circle around the planet, like hunters, surrounding their prey. Each ship had weapons that looked powerful enough to destroy a city. "Captain," called out Ensign Bob Carter from the communication station, "we're getting a signal from the alien ships. They're trying to talk to us." "Put it on screen," Jake said. Image changed to show a creature that made Jake's blood run cold. It looked like a giant lizard standing on 2 legs. Its skin was dark green and covered in scales. Its yellow eyes were cold and mean. When it spoke, its voice was deep and harsh. "I am War Commander Zichthel of the Vexthari Empire," the creature said. "You humans have built your settlement in our territory. This is not allowed." Jake stepped forward. "I'm Captain Morrison of the Earth Federation. We didn't know this was your territory. We can talk about this peacefully." The alien's mouth opened to show sharp teeth. "There is nothing to discuss. This space belongs to the Vexthari Empire. It has been ours for 1,000 years. You will leave immediately, or we will make you leave." "We have families down there," Jake said. "Children. Give us time to evacuate them safely." "You had time," Zichthel replied. "You chose to ignore our warnings." "What warnings?" Jake asked, confused. "We never received any warnings." "Ignorance is no excuse. You will watch what happens to those who defy the Vexthari Empire." The screen went black. Jake felt panic rising in his chest. "Lisa, you need to get those people to the shelters now." But it was too late. The alien ships began to glow with bright energy. Beams of plasma shot out from their weapons and struck the orbital stations around the planet. The stations exploded in brilliant flashes of light and fire. Jake watched in horror as the mining equipment and supply depots were destroyed one by one. The aliens were showing their power, proving they could kill everyone on the planet whenever they wanted. "Captain, we're receiving another transmission," Bob said with a shaking voice. Zichthel appeared on screen again. "This is what happens to those who enter Vexthari space without permission. You have seen our power. Now you will carry our message to your people." "What message?" Jake asked, though he dreaded the answer. "Tell your leaders that the Vexthari Empire has been patient long enough. Humans have spread too far into our galaxy. You will withdraw from all systems beyond your home star, or we will destroy every human colony we find. The alien ships began moving toward the planet. Jake realized with horror that they were going to attack the surface where all the colonists lived. We can't let them do this, Jake said to his crew. Those are innocent people down there. Sir, they have 50 ships to our 1, said Lieutenant Tony Martinez, the weapons officer. Our guns won't even scratch their armor. Jake knew Tony was right, but he couldn't just run away. Prepare for attack. We have to try something. Captain, no. Lisa's voice came through the radio. Don't sacrifice your ship. Get out of here. And warn Earth. That's more important than saving us. Jake's hands shook as he gripped the command chair. Every instinct told him to fight, to protect the innocent people below. But Lisa was right. If he stayed, both his ship and the colony would be destroyed, and Earth would never know what was coming. All hands prepare for emergency jump, Jake ordered. His voice was steady, but inside he was breaking apart. The alien ships began firing. At the planet's surface, Jake could see the explosions even from space. Cities were burning. People were dying. And he was running away. Jump drive ready, Captain, called out the navigation officer. Jake took one last look at the planet. The colony that had taken 10 years to build was being destroyed in 10 minutes. The Vexthari were showing no mercy at all. Execute jump, Jake said quietly. The stars stretched into lines as the horizon leaped into hyperspace. Behind them, Kepler 442b burned under alien guns. Jake had escaped, but 50,000 humans had not died as the ship raced toward Earth. Jake stared at the tactical display. The Vexthari had 50 ships at just this one attack. How many ships did they have in total? How long had they been watching humanity expand into space? One thing was clear. The Vexthari thought humans were weak. They expected Earth to surrender after seeing one colony destroyed. But Jake knew something the aliens didn't understand. Humans never gave up without a fight. Admiral Kate Sullivan sat in her office on Mars, reading Captain Morrison's report for the 3rd time. The words didn't get easier to read. 50,000 people dead. An entire colony wiped out. And now the aliens were threatening to destroy. Every human settlement beyond Earth. Kate had been in the military for 30 years. She had fought in the corporate wars and the asteroid mining conflicts, but she had never faced anything like this. The Vexthari Empire was bigger and more powerful than any enemy humanity had ever encountered. Admiral, the Emergency Council is ready to meet, said her aide. Colonel Frank Peters. Kate walked to the war room where Earth's military leaders were waiting. The room was filled with worried faces. Everyone had read Morrison's report. Everyone knew what they were facing. Let's start with what we know, Kate said. Dr. Carter, tell us about these Vexthari. Dr. Alex Carter stood up. He was a thin man, with glasses, who studied alien life forms. Based on Captain Morrison's recordings, the Vexthari are a reptilian species. They're bigger and stronger than humans. Their technology is more advanced than ours, especially their weapons. How advanced? Asked General Mike Davis. Their plasma weapons are at least 50 years ahead of our best guns, Alex replied. Their ships are heavily armored. A direct fight would be very difficult for us. Kate nodded. She had expected this. What about their empire? From what we can tell, they control about 300 star systems. We control 40. They've been conquering other species for over 1,000 years. They're very experienced at war. The room fell silent. Everyone was thinking the same thing. How could humanity fight an enemy that was so much stronger? There's something else, Alex continued. I've been studying their communication patterns. The Vexthari have a very rigid society. Everything is based on rank and following orders. The soldiers never question their commanders. Is that good or bad for us? Kate asked. It could be both. They're very disciplined, but they might not be good at adapting to new situations. Across the galaxy, War Commander Zek Thal stood in his command ship and looked at the holographic display. It showed the location of every human colony. There were 41 settlements spread across different star systems. All of them were weak and poorly defended. The humans should have surrendered by now, said Sub-Commander Vextar, his second in command. Why haven't they responded to our ultimatum? Zekthil's yellow eyes narrowed. Because they're like all the other species we've conquered. They need to see more of our power before they understand their situation. Should we attack another colony? Yes. Choose one with many humans. Make the destruction visible from space, so their ships can see it and report back. Zekthal had conquered 12 species for the Vexthari Empire. The pattern was always the same. First, show overwhelming force. Second, give them a chance to surrender. Third, destroy something important. To prove you're serious. Usually, the enemy gave up after the third step. Humans would be no different. They were young and weak. Their ships were small, and their weapons were primitive. The Vexthari had been traveling between stars when humans were still living in caves. What? About their homeworld? Vextar asked. Earth is not important yet, Sekthul replied. We will deal with their colonies first. Once they see enough of their people die, their leaders will surrender to save their homeworld. Back on Mars, Kate was meeting with her top commanders. They had been studying the Vexthari attack for 3 days, looking for any weakness they could find. Their ships are powerful, but they're also slow, said Captain Rick Palmer, the fleet's best tactical officer. They move in perfect formations, like they're doing a parade. That's their military training, explained Dr. Martinez, who had been studying human warfare throughout history. They fight the same way they've always fought, because it's always worked before. Kate looked at the star map. What about our advantages? We must have some. We do, Elena said. Human military doctrine is based on flexibility. Our ship captains are trained to make decisions independently. We adapt to changing situations faster than any species we've encountered. But can we adapt fast enough? Kate asked. Maybe, if we don't try to fight them the way they expect us to fight. Lieutenant Commander Ben Rodriguez entered the room. He was in charge of organizing the human fleet. Admiral, we've got a problem. The Vexthari just attacked New Dallas Colony. They destroyed the entire settlement from orbit. Kate felt anger burning in her chest. New Dallas had 25,000 people, families, children, all dead because the aliens thought humans were weak. How many ships did they use? Kate asked. Just 3? They didn't even land troops. They just burned everything from space. The room was quiet. Everyone understood what this meant. The Vexthari were escalating their attacks. They were trying to force humanity to surrender through terror. They're making a mistake, Kate said finally. What do you mean? Asked General Davis. They think. We'll get scared and give up, but they don't understand humans. When we're threatened, we don't run away. We fight harder. Kate stood up and walked to the star map. The Vexthari have been conquering species for 1,000 years. They've never lost a war. They think they know how every species will react. And they're wrong about us? Completely wrong. They expect us to be afraid of their big ships and powerful weapons. They think we'll surrender to save our lives. Kate turned to face her commanders. But humans don't work that way. The more they hurt us, the angrier we get. The angrier we get, the harder we fight. Dr. Martinez nodded. I've been studying human military history. We've always been at our best when things looked hopeless. Valley Forge, Stalingrad, the asteroid mining wars. Humans fight hardest when their backs are against the wall. So what do we do? Asked Captain Palmer. Kate looked at each of her officers. We give them a war they've never seen before. They want to fight us like we're just another species they can intimidate. Instead, we're going to show them what happens when you threaten humanity. But they're stronger than us, General Davis pointed out. In a straight fight? Yes. But who said anything about a straight fight? Kate smiled grimly. The Vexthari have been winning wars the same way for centuries. They use overwhelming force against enemies who fight conventionally. And we're not going to fight conventionally? We're going to fight like humans. Fast, flexible, and unpredictable. We're going to use every advantage we have, including the one they'll never expect, which is, they think losing a few colonies will make us surrender. They don't understand that every human they kill just makes the rest of us more determined to destroy them. Kate walked back to her desk and activated the communication system. All fleet commanders, this is Admiral Sullivan. Prepare for Operation Nightfall. We're going to show the Vexthari Empire what happens when you start a fight with humans. In his command ship, Zeepthul received reports of increased human military activity. Ships were moving between systems. Communications were being encrypted. The humans were preparing for something. Should we attack Earth now? Asked Vextar. Not yet. Let them prepare. It will make their defeat more complete when they realize their preparations were useless. Zekthul had no idea that he was about to face an enemy unlike any the Vexthari had ever encountered. An enemy that got stronger when threatened, smarter when challenged, and more dangerous when cornered. Their first mistake had been attacking a human colony. Their second mistake was thinking humans would react like every other species they had conquered. They were about to learn that humans were different. The alarm bells rang throughout the human research base on Titan. Dr. Elena Martinez ran down the hallway to the secure laboratory, where her team had been working day and night for 2 weeks. Project Nightfall was almost ready, and not a moment too soon. Alana, the Vexthari deadline is in 6 hours, said Dr. Nancy Wells, her chief engineer. Are we ready? Elena looked at the experimental equipment filling the laboratory. Months of work had gone into developing technology that could give humanity a fighting chance against the alien empire. We have to be ready. Show me the test results. Nancy activated a holographic display that showed the results of their latest experiments. The cloaking system works, but only for small ships. The quantum torpedoes can phase through their shields, but we only have enough materials to make 50 of them. What about the AI coordination system? That's our best hope. Every human ship and soldier can be linked together through quantum communication. It means they can coordinate perfectly, even across different star systems. Elena nodded. This was the key to everything. The Vexthari fought with rigid discipline and fixed tactics. But humans could adapt and change their strategy instantly if they were all connected. Start loading the equipment onto the ships, Elena ordered. Captain Wilson is waiting for us. Meanwhile, Captain Danny Wilson stood on the bridge of his ship, the USS Phantom. It didn't look like much. It was a converted cargo ship with extra armor and weapons bolted onto the hull. But it was fast and it was quiet, which was exactly what Wilson needed. Captain, the other ships are ready, reported Lieutenant Amy Foster, his tactical officer. We have 12 ships total, all equipped with the new cloaking technology. Wilson looked at his small fleet on the tactical display. 12 ships against the might of the Vexthari Empire. It would have been funny if it wasn't so serious. Remember, we're not trying to destroy their entire fleet, Wilson said to his crew. We're trying to hurt them in ways they don't expect. Hit their supply lines, disrupt their communications, and make them afraid to spread their ships too thin. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Admiral Sullivan. said the communications officer. Admiral Sullivan's face appeared on the main screen. Danny, the Vexthari have rejected our request for more time. They're going to attack Tau Ceti colony in 4 hours. Stop them. Wilson felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Tau Ceti had 80,000 people. If his mission failed, they would all die. Understood, Admiral. We won't let you down. The 12 human ships activated their cloaking systems and disappeared from all sensors. They moved silently through space toward the Tau Ceti system, where a massive Vexthari fleet was preparing to destroy another human colony. 3 star systems away, War Commander Zekthal stood in his command chamber and reviewed the attack plans. The humans had not responded to his ultimatum. This meant they needed to see more destruction before they understood their situation. The attack fleet is in position around Tau Ceti, reported Subcommander Vextar. 60 ships ready to destroy. The human colony. Good. Begin the attack in 1 hour. Make sure the destruction is visible from space so their ships can witness it. Zekthal was confident in his strategy. The humans would see their colony burning and realize they could not protect their people. Then they would surrender and withdraw from all systems beyond their homeworld. But Zekthal had made a critical error. He had positioned his attack fleet around the colony, but he had not protected his supply lines. The Vexthari had always fought against enemies who met them in direct battle. They had never faced an enemy that would attack their support systems. Captain, Wilson's fleet arrived at the edge of the Tau Ceti system, just as the Vexthari ships began moving toward the colony. But instead of rushing to defend the planet, Wilson ordered his ships to attack the alien supply convoy 3 systems away. Target the fuel tankers first, Wilson ordered. Without fuel, their big ships can't move. The quantum torpedoes phased through the Vexthari shields as if they didn't exist. The alien supply ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. In minutes, Wilson's small fleet had destroyed enough fuel to keep the Vexthari fleet running. For weeks. Sir, the aliens are sending ships to intercept us, reported Amy Foster. Let them come. By the time they get here, we'll be gone. Wilson's fleet activated their cloaking systems and disappeared. The Vexthari search ships found nothing but empty space and debris. On the Vexthari command ship, alarms were ringing. War Commander, our supply convoy has been destroyed, reported a communications officer. We cannot determine how many enemy ships were involved. Zekthal stared at the tactical display in confusion. The humans were supposed to be defending their colony, not attacking supply lines 3 systems away. This was not how civilized species fought wars. Send fighters to patrol all supply routes, Zekthal ordered. The humans must not be allowed to disrupt our operations. But it was too late. Wilson's fleet had already struck at 2 more supply convoys. The Vexthari fleet around Tau Ceti was running low on fuel and ammunition. They could still destroy the colony, but they would not be able to continue their advance afterward. On the surface of Tau Ceti, Commander Amy Foster was preparing the colony's defenses. She had received word the human ships were attacking the Vexthari supply lines, but she knew the aliens would still try to destroy the colony. Get all civilians to the underground shelters, she ordered her Marines, and prepare the surface defenses. We're going to make the aliens pay for every meter of ground. The Vexthari ground forces landed in massive transport ships. They were huge creatures, twice the size of humans, covered in thick armor. They moved slowly but steadily toward the colony buildings. Foster watched them through her binoculars. They fight like they're invincible, she said to her sergeant. But invincible doesn't mean smart. The human Marines were equipped with powered exoskeletons that made them faster and stronger. They also had neural link communication systems that allowed them to coordinate their movements perfectly. When the Aulis, Vexthari forces reached the colony's outskirts, they found empty buildings. The humans had evacuated the civilians and were fighting. From hidden positions, now, Foster shouted out. The human Marines attacked from all directions at once. They used their speed and agility to dart between buildings, striking at the aliens, and then disappearing before they could respond. The Vexthari had expected the humans to meet them in open battle, where their superior size and armor would be decisive. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to stand still and fight fairly. "They're like insects," growled one Vexthari soldier as human fighters darted around him. "They won't stand and fight like warriors." But the humans weren't trying to be warriors in the traditional sense. They were trying to survive and protect their colony. They used every advantage they had, including their smaller size and greater speed. The battle raged for hours. The Vexthari forces were stronger individually, but the humans were better coordinated and more adaptable. Every time the aliens tried a new tactic, the humans found a way to counter it. Finally, the Vexthari commander received an urgent message from his fleet. "Ground forces, return to the ships immediately. We are low on fuel and must withdraw." The alien troops began retreating to their landing ships. They had taken the colony, but they had not broken human resistance. And now their fleet was in trouble. Because of the attacks on their supply lines. As the Vexthari ships left Tau Ceti, War Commander Zekthul realized he had underestimated the humans. They didn't fight like other species. They used unconventional tactics and refused to give up even when facing superior force. "How many ships did the humans use to attack our supply lines?" Zekthul asked. "We don't know, War Commander. Our sensors couldn't detect them." This was deeply troubling. The Vexthari had the best sensors in the galaxy, but somehow the humans had developed technology that could hide their ships completely. "Double the guards on all supply convoys," Zekthul ordered, "and prepare for a different kind of war. The humans are not going to surrender easily." For the first time in 1,000 years, the Vexthari Empire was facing an enemy that they couldn't defeat with overwhelming force alone. The humans were forcing them to fight a new kind of war, one where adaptation and flexibility mattered more than raw power, and the humans were just getting started. 6 months had passed since the first Vexthari attack, and the war had spread across 20 star systems. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood in the command center on Mars, watching the tactical display that showed the current state of the conflict. Display looked like a three-dimensional chessboard with red and blue dots representing Vexthari and human forces. The red dots were bigger and more numerous, but the blue dots were moving in patterns that would have been impossible just a year ago. "Status report," Kate said to Captain Rick Palmer, her chief tactical officer. "We've lost 4 colonies, but we've destroyed or damaged over 200 Vexthari ships," Rick replied. "Their supply lines are in chaos. They're having trouble keeping their fleets fueled and armed." "What about our losses?" "Surprisingly light. We've lost 23 ships, but most of our crews survived. The aliens are having trouble targeting our ships." "Because of the cloaking technology?" Kate nodded. The war was going better than anyone had expected, but it was far from over. The Vexthari still had more ships and more firepower. They were just learning to use them differently. "The aliens are adapting," said Dr. Helena Martinez, who had joined the meeting. "They're starting to spread their forces more carefully and protect their supply lines better." "But we're adapting faster," Kate replied. "That's always been our advantage." Across the galaxy, War Commander Zekthul was facing the most difficult challenge of his career. The humans had proven to be unlike any enemy the Vexthari had ever encountered. They refused to fight in predictable ways, and they seemed to learn from every battle. "Report," Zekthul ordered as he entered his command chamber. "We've recaptured the mining station at Kepler 186, but we lost 6 ships doing it," reported Sub-Commander. "Vexstar." The humans abandoned the station, but left traps throughout the facility. What kind of traps? Explosive devices that triggered when our troops tried to use the equipment. The humans had rigged everything to explode. Zekthul's yellow eyes narrowed. They destroyed their own facility rather than let us capture it intact. Yes, War Commander. They seemed to prefer destroying something rather than losing it to us. This was another example of human behavior that the Vextari didn't understand. In their experience, conquered species tried to preserve their infrastructure in hopes of getting it back later. But humans would rather destroy everything than give their enemies any advantage. What about our supply situation? Still problematic. The humans have attacked 17 more supply convoys this month. They appear and disappear before our patrol ships can respond. Zekthul walked to the large window that showed the stars. Outside, somewhere in that darkness, human ships were planning their next attack. He could not predict where or when they would strike, and this uncertainty was eating away at his confidence. Prepare the dreadnought fleet, Zekthul ordered. We will crush the humans with overwhelming force. Which target should we attack, War Commander? The human stronghold at Proxima Station. If we can destroy their main military base, they will have no choice but to surrender. But Zekthul didn't know that Admiral Sullivan had been expecting this move. Human intelligence had been monitoring Vextari communications for months, and they knew about the dreadnought fleet's deployment. The aliens are committing everything to an attack on Proxima Station, Kate told her commanders. This is our chance to end the war. How? Asked General Mike Davis. Those dreadnoughts are the most powerful ships in the galaxy. Because they're not attacking a military base, Kate smiled. They're attacking a trap. Colonel Steve Murphy, the commander of Proxima Station, had been preparing for this moment for weeks. What the Vextari saw as a human military base was actually a massive weapons platform disguised as a research facility. All personnel to battle stations, Murphy announced over the station's communication system. The guests are arriving. Hidden throughout the Proxima system were weapons that the Vextari had never seen before. Railguns that could fire projectiles at nearly the speed of light. Antimatter mines that could destroy a ship completely. And, most importantly, the AI battle network that connected every human ship and soldier. The Vextari dreadnought fleet entered the Proxima system in perfect formation. 20 massive ships, each one capable of destroying a planet. They moved slowly and majestically, confident in their power. Begin the attack, ordered the Vextari fleet commander. The dreadnoughts opened fire with their plasma cannons. But instead of hitting a defenseless research station, their beams struck deflector shields that had been hidden beneath the surface. Now, Murphy shouted. The hidden railguns fired simultaneously, projectiles traveling at 100,000 kilometers per second slammed into the Vextari ships. The aliens' shields, designed to stop energy weapons, were useless against solid projectiles moving at such incredible speed. 3 dreadnoughts exploded immediately. The others turned to retreat, but they ran into the antimatter mines that had been placed throughout the system. The mines had been floating in space, invisible to Vextari sensors, waiting for this moment. But the real surprise came when the human fleet arrived. Led by Captain Danny Wilson, dozens of human ships dropped out of hyperspace and surrounded the surviving Vextari vessels. This is Captain Wilson to all ships, Danny announced over the communication system. Activate the battle network. Suddenly, every human ship and soldier in the system was connected through quantum communication. They could share information instantly and coordinate their movements with perfect precision. The Vextari had never seen anything like it. The human ships moved like a single organism, anticipating each other's actions and responding to threats. Before they fully developed, Lieutenant Sarah Thompson, commanding a squadron of fighters, demonstrated the difference perfectly. Her original mission was to attack the dreadnought's engines. But when she saw an opportunity to disable their communications instead, she changed her plan instantly. "All fighters, new target," she announced. "Hit their communication arrays. If they can't talk to each other, they can't coordinate their defense." Her squadron adapted immediately. Within minutes, the surviving Vexthari ships were blind and deaf, unable to communicate with each other or their command structure. A Vexthari ship commander tried to follow his original orders, but the situation had changed completely. He needed new instructions, but he couldn't contact his superiors. His human counterpart would have adapted to the new situation automatically. The battle lasted 3 hours. When it was over, the entire Vexthari dreadnought fleet had been destroyed or captured. The humans had lost only 5 ships, and even those crews had been rescued by the AI coordination system. War Commander Zekthul received the news of the defeat in stunned silence. His most powerful fleet had been destroyed by an enemy that was supposed to be primitive and weak. How is this possible? He asked his staff. The humans had no dreadnoughts. Their ships are smaller and less powerful than ours. They fought differently than we expected, Vextar replied. Their ships worked together in ways we've never seen. It was like fighting a single opponent with 100 bodies. Zekthul realized that his empire's greatest advantage had become a weakness. The Vexthari were disciplined and organized, but they couldn't adapt quickly to new situations. The humans could change their tactics instantly, because every ship captain could make independent decisions. "What are our options?" Zekthul asked. "We could withdraw and negotiate a peace treaty," suggested one of his advisors. "Never." Zekthul roared. "The Viesthari Empire does not negotiate with inferior species. We will destroy their homeworld and break their spirit. War Commander, perhaps we should reconsider. The humans have proven to be more dangerous than we thought." "They are still just humans," Zekthul replied. "They may have won some battles, but they cannot defeat the full might of our empire. Prepare the fleet for an attack on Earth itself." It was a decision that would seal the fate of the Vexthari Empire. They had learned nothing from their defeats. They still believed that overwhelming force could overcome human ingenuity and determination. Admiral Sullivan received intelligence. Reports about the Vexthari plans to attack Earth. Instead of fear, she felt a cold satisfaction. The aliens were making their final mistake. "Let them come," she told her staff. "Earth has been preparing for this moment since the war began. It's time to show them what happens when you threaten humanity's homeworld." The stage was set for the final battle. The Vexthari, desperate to salvage their pride, would commit everything to destroying Earth, but they would find that attacking humanity's home was the worst mistake they could possibly make. The massive Vexthari fleet moved through space toward Earth like a dark cloud of death. War Commander Zekthul stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue planet grow larger on the main screen. This was the human homeworld, where their species had first crawled out of the mud millions of years ago. "All ships, prepare for orbital bombardment," Zekthul ordered. "We will burn their cities and break their spirit. Then they will surrender." The Vexthari fleet was the largest ever assembled. 300 ships, including the remaining dreadnoughts and every battle cruiser the Empire could spare. It was enough firepower to destroy a dozen worlds. "War Commander, we're detecting human ships throughout the solar system," reported the tactical officer. "But they're not moving to intercept us." Zekthul looked at the display showing scattered human vessels near the asteroid belt, around Mars, and in orbit around the gas giants. They seemed to be waiting for something. "They know they cannot defeat us in open battle," Zekthul said with satisfaction. "They are accepting their fate." But Admiral Kate Sullivan, watching the alien fleet from her command ship, had a very different plan. She stood on the bridge with Captain Jake Morrison, who had requested to be present for the final battle. "All stations report ready, Admiral," said Captain Rick Palmer. "Earth's defenses are online." "Good. Signal all ships. Operation Homecoming begins now." Throughout the solar system, hidden weapons platforms began to activate. The asteroids weren't just rocks floating in space. Many of them had been hollowed out and filled with railguns and missile launchers. The Vex Thari had walked into the most sophisticated defense network ever created. "Fire," Kate ordered quietly. The asteroid belt exploded with weapons fire. Thousands of projectiles launched simultaneously from hidden platforms, racing toward the Vex Thari fleet at incredible speeds. The alien sensors had detected the human ships, but they had completely missed the weapon platforms disguised as eyes. "Asteroids, evasive maneuvers." Zekthal shouted as his ships came under attack from directions they hadn't expected. But the Vex Thari ships were too big and too slow to dodge effectively. 20 ships were destroyed in the first wave of attacks. The surviving vessels tried to return fire, but they couldn't target enemies they couldn't see. "The humans have weaponized their entire solar system," reported the tactical officer. "We're under attack from multiple vectors." The moon's surface began to open up, revealing massive gun emplacements that had been hidden beneath the lunar rock. Mars launched swarms of autonomous fighters that moved too fast for Vex Thari targeting systems to track. Admiral Pete Jackson, commanding Earth's planetary defense, watched the battle from his command center beneath the surface. "Phase 2, activate now." The space around Earth filled with thousands of small ships that seemed to appear from nowhere. They were too small to carry human pilots, but they moved with perfect coordination, attacking the Vex Thari fleet from all sides. "What are those things?" demanded Zekthal. "They appear to be unmanned fighters controlled by artificial intelligence," his tactical officer replied. "They're working together like a swarm of insects." The AI fighters had been Dr. Elena Martinez's final contribution to the war effort. Each one was controlled by a computer that could react faster than any living pilot. They were connected through the quantum communication network, allowing them to coordinate their attacks with mathematical precision. The Vex Thari fleet found itself surrounded by enemies that couldn't be intimidated, couldn't be reasoned with, and couldn't make mistakes. The AI fighters attacked with relentless efficiency, targeting weak points in the alien ship's armor. "We need to retreat," advised Sub-Commander Vextar. "We cannot fight the entire solar system." "No," Zekthal roared. "We will destroy their homeworld or die trying. All ships, focus fire on the planet. Ignore the fighters." The surviving Vex Thari ships turned their weapons toward Earth. Plasma beams lanced out toward the blue planet, carrying enough energy to vaporize continents, but the beams struck a shimmering barrier that surrounded Earth like a soap bubble. The planetary shield held, absorbing the alien weapon's fire and converting it into harmless energy. "Impossible," Zekthal whispered. "No species has ever built a planetary shield." "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet," reported the communications officer. Admiral Sullivan's face appeared on the main screen. "War Commander Zekthal, this is Admiral Sullivan of the Earth Defense Fleet. You are surrounded and outnumbered. Surrender now, and your surviving crews will be treated according to the laws of war." Zekthal's yellow eyes blazed with fury. "I will never surrender to an inferior species. The Vex Thari Empire will fight to the last ship." "Then you've made your choice," Sullivan replied sadly. "Captain Morrison, you may proceed." Jake Morrison, now commanding the experimental warship USS Defiance, led the final assault on the Vex Thari flagship. His ship was different from any other in the human fleet. It was controlled by an artificial intelligence that could think and adapt faster than any biological mind. "Aria, engage the enemy flagship," Jake ordered. The ship's AI, named Aria, had been developed specifically for this battle. It could process information from thousands of sources simultaneously and make tactical decisions in microseconds. Engaging. Hostile vessel, Aria replied in a calm female voice. Analyzing enemy shield frequencies. Adapting weapons to maximum effectiveness. The Defiance moved through space like a deadly dancer, dodging Vexthari weapons' fire while targeting the exact points where the alien ship was most vulnerable. Aria calculated the perfect attack angles and weapon settings, adjusting them constantly as the battle progressed. Their shields are down to 40%, Aria reported. Recommends switching to quantum torpedoes for maximum penetration. Do it, Jake ordered. The quantum torpedoes phased through the Vexthari ship's weakened shields and exploded inside the vessel. The flagship's engines went critical, and emergency lights flashed throughout the bridge. War Commander, the ship is lost. Reported Vextar. We must evacuate. Zekthul looked around his burning command center. His fleet was destroyed. His empire's reputation was in ruins. And he had been defeated by a species he had considered primitive and weak. How? He asked Jake Morrison over the communication system. How did you defeat us? We are the Vexthari. Empire. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. Jake's face appeared on the screen. That was your mistake, War Commander. You conquered species that fought the way you expected them to fight. But humans are different. Different how? We don't. Give up. When you attacked our colonies, you thought we'd be afraid. Instead, you made us angry. When you destroyed our cities, you thought we'd surrender. Instead, you made us more determined. Zekthul's ship shuddered as another explosion rocked the vessel. Your weapons are inferior. Your ships are smaller. How did you win? Because we adapt, Jake replied. Because we innovate. Because we refuse to accept defeat. And because when you threaten our families, our homes, our way of life, we become more dangerous than you could ever imagine. The Vexthari flagship's hull began to crack. Emergency systems were failing throughout the ship. This is Admiral Sullivan to all Vexthari vessels, came a broadcast over all frequencies. Your flagship is destroyed. Your fleet is defeated. Any ship that surrenders now will be spared. One by one, the surviving Vexthari ships powered down their weapons and surrendered. They had seen enough destruction. Their empire's myth of invincibility was broken forever. War Commander Zeke Thule was pulled from his burning ship by a human rescue team. As he was taken to a medical facility, he finally understood the magnitude of his empire's mistake. The Vexthari had assumed humans would behave like every other species they had conquered. They had expected fear, submission, and eventual surrender. Instead, they had found an enemy that grew stronger under pressure, more creative when challenged, and more dangerous when cornered. You started this war because you thought we were weak, Admiral Sullivan told him later. You continued it because you thought we were predictable. Your final mistake was believing that attacking our home would break us. Zekthul looked at the human admiral with new understanding. What happens now? Now your empire learns to coexist with humanity. Your species will be treated fairly, but you will never again be allowed to threaten innocent people. And if we refuse? Sullivan's expression was calm but firm. Then you'll discover that this war was just a small demonstration of what humans can do when we're really motivated. The Vexthari Empire, humbled and defeated, agreed to peace terms. They had learned the lesson that would echo through galactic history. Never start a fight with humans, because humans never stop fighting until they win. And in the depths of space, other alien species watched the recordings of the war and took note. The humans had proven that size and strength weren't everything. Intelligence, adaptability, and sheer determination could overcome any advantage. The galaxy had learned what it meant to fight humans, and none of them wanted to make that mistake again.